A lot's been made this offseason about what's coming and what's up next for the Chicago Bulls. Well, now an article with Spotrac, who talked to a Bulls exec and Bulls coaches, have released a lot of information about what could be next for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, hosted by Haize, your number one spot for all things Chicago Bulls.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go to get into this content today, y'all. So Spotrac, however you pronounce it, has released an article in their offseason and summer league notes in which they talk to a number of NBA execs and NBA coaches. Now, these quotes all come from a Bulls exec, not some random NBA exec from another team, but from a Bull executive. I want to talk a little bit about them here. So the first one that we got here is that on the quiet offseason that the Bulls had, saying this: I won't say it was by design, but we knew we weren't likely to make any blockbuster moves either. But we were happy with what we did, and we're still actively looking at other options too. Now, this is something that I know a certain amount of the fan base is not going to like to hear, that the Bulls automatically knew that they weren't necessarily going to be doing any type of crazy moves or anything like that, but it shouldn't be a surprise. We should not be surprised to hear that the Bulls were not going to have some crazy type of offseason. We knew that coming into this offseason. If you haven't been watching Chicago Bulls Central, I told you guys the offseason was probably going to be a fairly quiet one for the Chicago Bulls and more straightforward. So hearing that the Bulls kind of understood and knew they weren't going to make a lot of blockbuster moves, but they were going to make kind of more foundational, supplemental moves is the better word there. Supplemental moves to kind of get you to a better place than what you were last season shouldn't really be a surprise to anybody. So hearing that, that's business as usual. Nothing that's too surprising there. But this next quote coming from Josh Giddey, and this one is from a Bulls front office executive, says this: we want to get a deal done with Josh. He's an important player as we have. We see him as a foundational player for us, and we hope that we can find a deal that makes sense for us and him, and that we'll be together for a long time. Now, this is going to be something that, depending on what side of the Josh Giddey conversation that you're on, is going to maybe color how you feel about this a little bit, right? On one side of it, you can look at it very much so and say, well, if you see Josh Giddey as so foundational, why are you offering something that's so much lower than what he expects his market value to be? And another side of this argument could be from another set of Bulls fans to say, well, yeah, you can see him as foundational, but because it is that, like, you still need to build that foundation. You don't want to overpay him if you don't have to leave yourself a little leeway to continue to add to this team. And you're going to get a portion of the fan base to say, Josh Giddey, foundational? What are they crazy? It's all going to be what it's going to be when it comes down to that, right? You're going to get your fair share of people who sit on one side or the other of this argument, and they all have their own merits and reasons for thinking the way that they do. I'm not here to argue with anybody in regards to that anymore. It is what it is. Either you like Josh Giddey or you don't like Josh Giddey. Either you want Josh Giddey on this team or you see him as somebody who shouldn't be on this team. Either way, it is what it is. And if the Bulls truly view him as a foundational piece or whatever it is, cool, figure it out. I mean, figure out the deal. And it seems like they are still very much so open in figuring out what this deal could look like for all sides involved. And I can't be mad at that if I'm the Chicago Bulls. I've said it before. I view this as the Bulls are using this to take advantage of what the market, and I think that if you're going to negotiate, you're going to see that. You're going to look at those options, and the Bulls right now sit in a place where they didn't have to pay Josh Giddey $30 million because the market dictated that that's not what the value that the league sees in it. And why pay over market value if you don't have to? Now, I do think on the flip side of this as well, you do run the risk of completely alienating Josh Giddey, and then maybe he does take the qualifying offer. And if he does, that relationship's done. It's over with. It's done. You're not getting that relationship back if that's the case, and you got to be okay with that. You have to find a way to be okay with that if that's going to be the thing that you end up doing. And if it is, cool. If that's what works for you, that's what works for you. But hearing that the Bulls see it as he's a foundational piece, I guess you're going to have to see if you're going to pay him like a foundational piece, if that's how you truly view him. And I guess we'll see what's going to happen when it comes down to that. So that's my personal opinion. The next part of this in regards to Coby White says this: the contract is what it is. We probably can't extend him because the rules don't allow for us to pay him enough. But we want Coby White to be a Bull for a long time. He knows how we feel about him. This is the interesting quote. And I know my Bulls fans. I would love to be able to say that my Bulls fans aren't going to be knee-jerky and reaction-y, but I know y'all too well. There's absolutely going to be people that's like, well, does that mean that they know they're going to pay Coby White more than Josh Giddey? Here's the thing. If they do pay Coby White more than Josh Giddey, there are reasons for that. A, he's been here, and you kind of know who he is a little bit more. He's grown in your system. B, he's a scorer. The league pays for scorers more than what they do, but it seems like the Bulls, by not saying it outright, is that they're going to be willing to pay Coby White just about whatever the hell Coby White wants to get paid, is what it seems like. Now, that could change as well. The market's going to be a lot different next season. And I think that's something that we don't talk about enough with the Josh Giddey situation, is that right now the market is dictating a lot of this Josh Giddey situation. With Coby White, there are going to be more teams with free agent capital. There's going to be more teams with cap space than this year, and there's going to be more teams that have set themselves up to make a big splash, meaning that if they crash out on that big splash, they're going to be looking even more so to sign players like Coby White with upside if they strike out on that. The Bulls in the Coby White negotiations, in my personal opinion, have to strike very, very early when it comes to Coby White, because if Coby gets to the place of meeting with other teams, if he gets to the point where teams are sitting down and he's having those meetings and he gets a chance to get wined and dined, that's something that it's going to be difficult, man. So hearing that the Bulls are committed to keeping Coby, that goes in line with what we've heard from K.C. Johnson. It goes in line with what we've heard over the last couple of weeks, is that Coby's not on the market. He's not on the market. The Bulls don't hold an interest in trading Coby White. And, you know, there are a segment of Bulls fans that don't agree with that either. They think that the Bulls should be looking to move on from Coby rather than pay him and take advantage of his value now. I can't tell you how many phone calls we've gotten on the voicemail line, or how many comments we've gotten over the last couple of months over trade Coby now, get multiple picks back. It also sets you on the rebuild. I think these comments more than anything should tell everybody and signify to everybody the Bulls have no interest in going into a full rebuild. If you are still holding out hope that this team is going to go into a full rebuild, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. The Bulls have no interest in going full rebuild. They have no plans to go full rebuild. It's more than likely not happening, ladies and gentlemen, and that's perfectly fine. But then it's like, okay, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do then to continue to supplement and add to this team? You have to draft well. You have to be focused on filling in the holes and the gaps. And I think even more so, if you are locking yourself in to Coby White and Josh Giddey, both long-term, there is no way in blue hell that you can try to convince us that you don't need a different center here. I'm not saying that you can't keep Vooch if he ends up being your bench center. I'm not saying that Vooch can't stick around on a reasonable team-friendly contract. But if you truly want to maximize this talent that you have here and these players that you have here now, you cannot try to convince Bulls fans that the best for that and what you're going to get out of that is Nikola Vucevic as being the center with a backcourt of Josh Giddey, Coby White, and a front court of, in the future, Noah Essengue and Buzelis. One of these things don't fit. That thing is Nikola Vucevic. That's the thing that doesn't fit. So if you see that as both these guys, as Coby and Giddy, being viewed as foundational players for your team, Vooch can't be part of that main core. He can be on the team. He can be a supplemental player, but he cannot, in no blue hell way, be this player that you are still planning on being your starting center going forward. I'm not C-Dub. I'm not a Nikola Vucevic hater. I'm not that at all. But you have to understand that certain mixes of players just don't work. And that's where the Bulls have really hurt themselves for so much, is where it doesn't work. And according to a Bulls coach, another quote here from this article, last year we played pretty fast. I think we can play even faster next season. How the fuck are you going to play faster with Nikola Vucevic on your roster? In what generation? In what multiverse? In what universe can you play faster if Nikola Vucevic is your starting center? Please tell me. And again, I'm not a Vooch hater. Efficient, 18 and 11 player, solid assist numbers, really good efficiency. But if you want to play faster, to me and you're telling me listen, I was born on a day I wasn't born yesterday. You can't tell me that we got BBL legs? Is there a way to replace Nikola Vucevic's motor and legs to where he can run faster? Because if you can do that, maybe. But it's very much trying to tell me that a flat back's gonna have a fat ass soon. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. It's not reasonable. But let's keep it going. Our roster is built for it. You saw it with Indiana and OKC in the finals. You mean two teams that both had more mobile center? Shut up. I'm setting up. The playing the pace is so important. We're going to get after it on defense, force turnovers, then get out and run. That suits Modest and Noah as our young forwards and all of our guards really well. We also think that Isaac Okoro will benefit in more up-tempo offensive style too. There's untapped potential there. You know one thing you didn't mention? Your center position. So you talked about the forwards, you talked about the guards, you talked about Isaac Okoro. What fucking center do we have on this roster that can play in a more up-tempo style? Bulls coach, tell me. Somebody convince me of something that I'm not. What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm just wondering. Because you telling me that you got the roster to play fast and you want to play even faster and Nikola Vucevic is still your starting center. What are we talking about? Just a question there. Just a question. I'm going to shut the hell up. Going into the next one, this last quote is on Modest Buzelis. This one's also from a Bulls coach. It says, he's going to be really good. Really, really good. He wants it so damn bad. The kid pushes himself so hard, and you see that on the floor too. But it's the quiet moments when you see him work. He's wildly intense and getting better and improving. We all know that about Modest Buzelis. I mean, that's it, period, point blank. We all know that about Modest Buzelis. Modest is a guy that you cannot deny is a guy that wants it. And I'm going to also put this this link to this article in the comment section. Put that link in the comment section. You guys can go and follow that there. For those that are watching on Instagram, we are streaming live for the first time over on Instagram. We're going to get TikTok popping here soon as well. I just put the link to the article. I always like to be forward with those type of things because people ask questions or like to think people's capping. So I want to make sure everybody can go and read the article that I'm getting all this from. Because again, nobody's capping here. But this is just it's a series of comments and stuff that all makes sense. Make no mistake about it. But like always with the Chicago Bulls, it's the execution of it that I have a question about. And I guess we'll see if the Bulls can overcome it. I guess we'll see if they can figure this thing on out, man. Overall, I like some of the stuff that I hear here. I love hearing that Coby and Josh Giddey are part of the foundation here. I love hearing the plan that they have for Isaac Okoro. I love hearing how they talked about the forwards in Noah and Modest and talking about those guys together as a tandem because I do think that's eventually what you're building towards. And it seems like what the Bulls feel is that they have their backcourt in Coby and Giddy, and they have their forward combo in Modest and Noah Essengue. Now, if you already think you have 4 of your future starters on your team, you better hope that the way that they're going to develop together is going to turn into a monster. Because if it doesn't, I mean, you're capped out, right? But you got to keep building this team out. You got other players you need to develop. You still need to find that center of the future as well. And I guess we shall see what's going to happen here. But I wanted to bring that quick update to you guys, man. You guys know anytime something, I felt like it was worth talking about now and not waiting till tomorrow's daily to break all that down. But you guys can let me know how you feel on all of it down below. Make sure you guys are following us wait, hold on. Got a great question here. Who is the backup center? That's a good question. I think Zach Collins is going to be ahead of Smith. And I think that because it seemed like Jalen Smith fell out of the rotation last year. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't come into training camp and maybe win that position back. But right now, my feeling is that it's going to be Zach Collins. Keep in mind, one of the Bulls' best runs of the season was with Zach Collins as your starting center. But I think Trey Jones and Zach Collins have a nice amount of chemistry already together. And so if they're bringing those guys off the bench as your bench unit with Okoro and probably Ayo Dosunmu, I think that there's a lot of chemistry and symmetry there that makes that make sense. So that's probably who I see right now as the backup center, but that doesn't mean that it can't be. Ant-Man says, LOL, 20-plus incentives. Here's the incentive. Take the qualifying offer and leave in free agency, Laura Marketing 2.0. No, I don't think that. I think that you can If I'm the Bulls, I'm fine settling on $25 million per with incentives to push it up to 26, 27. I think that's and I don't even know if you can have incentives that push it up that much. I'd have to go and look at the CBA on the rules on incentives, but I know you can have incentives that can get you more on that contract. I just don't know how much you can get that on, if that makes sense. So, we shall see. We shall see. Steve says a 3-year, $25 million deal is the ideal contract for both parties, in my opinion. Josh can prove his worth it or more. Bulls have a tradable contract if he still hasn't proved it in 2 years. So that's a 3-year, $75 million contract. I mean, maybe you do a +1 on that, get it to $100 million, maybe. I mean, I really don't know how this contract is going to shake out. That's going to be the most interesting thing in all of this, is watching to see how that contract really shakes out, in my opinion. I know you're seeing the Bulls see Noah as a forward, but could he run some small ball 5? I mean, yeah, he could run some small ball 5. I don't know if that's going to be the best use of his skills, but you look at, I see Noah as like a mix between Brandon Ingram, KD, Pascal Siakam, Paolo Banchero, or Franz, somewhere in there. He's a mix of amalgamation of a few different players. It just really depends on how much weight and muscle he's able to put on. Is I think what it comes down to. That's just my personal opinion, but we shall see there. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.